What's up, everybody? It's Adam Turner here, Stan USMNT. I am joined, like always, with Mr. Calcio Guy. And we got a special guest with us tonight, Caleb from USMNT Corner. He's joining us. We're going to break it down. We're going to debate it. We're going to analyze it. And we're going to, man, this is it. This is the window. Let's get it. Hey, let's jump in. First of all, we got Caleb. You guys, most of you, I hope, follow him. If you don't, go follow him. It's at USMNT Corner. Caleb, man, thanks for jumping on. Excited to have you. Love to just learn more about you, man. Where are you at in the world? How did you, get into this crazy USMNT universe? What's your soccer background? Tell us more about you, man.
Yeah. Excuse me. First of all, pleasure to be here. Grateful to be on here. Love chatting. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. A little bit about me, Georgia, a little bit outside Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up playing soccer. I didn't really, a lot of us in the age bracket that I think you guys are probably in with me. The access to soccer it wasn't there. So I didn't grow up in love with soccer. I grew up in love with basketball, actually, but I always played soccer. It wasn't really until 2014 bomb pop, right? Where I actually just fell completely head over heels with soccer, and then the U.S. men's national team in particular. And then I got involved with Twitter for Atlanta United purposes in like 2017, 18, and then about a year or so ago, I created USMNT Corner just to have a soccer specific US, mostly centered space. And I have my personal profile on there. I don't try to hide or anything. This is who I am. But that's, in a nutshell,
Yeah.
who
Love
I am.
it's funny, man. Like the more people we talk to, right? We've tried to bring on a lot of guests who have Twitter accounts who, we mostly smaller accounts, but like it's funny how many people started accounts like during pandemic. It was kind of like end of 2020, right? Into 2021. I feel like USMNT picked up a lot of like passionate fans who have like really, not that you weren't on board before, like I was too, we all were, but I feel like I never thought about having a Twitter account, and I did the exact same thing, man. It was like the last year. I was like, man, I want to start an account where I just kind of can switch over and just focus on soccer, because it was like muddled on my other, timeline. And I know, Cal, you were the same way, right? Like you didn't really.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like a little bit of the domino effect, because there was, I would say at the time there was Pulisic, who was at Dortmund, right? And that was, Dortmund's a pretty big team, but he was. And then there was this like domino effect where first it was like Pulisic went to Chelsea, Reina was coming up at Dortmund, McKennie somehow landed at Juventus. And for me, obviously being a Serie A fan, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Dest was a Barcelona. All of a sudden, there was just a bunch of these guys who are at, the top clubs. I mean, there's the Brooks and there was the Adams, but, I'm talking about historical clubs, or clubs, that have won Champions League in the last 5 years. So it definitely caught my attention more, and got, at least gave me a chance to kind of find out more about the players, and kind of, I think once you start looking into the youth and kind of all the talent that's up and coming, and you get your head around that plus that there's some decent players playing at big clubs, you're like, whoa, there's, I got to start paying more attention to this.
It's hard not to get excited about it.
Yeah, it's this convergence of like, it's really cool, man. It's this convergence of like what's actually happening with the young players, right? And I think what's happening in MLS, where it's just becoming a little bit more of a feeder league, a little bit more of a developmental league than it was in the past. And then like this youth boom, right, in the US of legit talent, guys who are very legit. And I feel like it's led, all of us, I feel like we've all like congregated to Twitter, funny enough, to be like, hey, is there anybody else out there like me who like is really into this thing? Because like, and we hear this all the time, like in my circle, I have a couple friends who are really into it, not nearly as much as I am, but like, I don't have many, I don't have like a ton of people like NBA. I have like a group chat of dudes like there's like 10 of us, right? Who I could go on there at any point and we're talking hoops. I don't really have that for soccer in the same way. Like a little bit, but Twitter's kind of become that. I feel like, I know for like the First Touch Space guys is the same way. Like it's kind of like trying to find a community. But hey, man, glad to have you in the community, Caleb. And let's jump in, man. We got we have a first section of our pod and our YouTube show we call The Brace, right? We're going to cover two big topics here that are pressing, and no surprise what these are right now, with the biggest window, one of the biggest windows in U.S. soccer history for sure, and certainly the biggest, extended weekend that we've had since 2017. We're talking all about, right, the upcoming final window. And so we're going to kick it off with taking a look at some lineups, talking about what each of our approach would be for this window in terms of the Mexico game, the Panama game, saving players. And so, Cal, if you want to go ahead and pull up, we're going to pull up kind of a sample lineup. I think it's one that Tack pulled up, and I think we're going to have some differences here. And I think Aronson was still active when he put this together, but we really just wanted more so than to rag on Tack here. I think we just want to use somebody's lineup as a base and just talk about some of the different options here. And so, Caleb, I'll as our guest, I'll let you kick it off here, and feel free to say where you'd sub stuff here. But let's talk about the Mexico game approach, right? That's what's coming up. By the time we launch this, it's going to be tonight. How are you attacking this game? And give me some of your logic and kind of reasoning behind what you're doing with some different positions here.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few different thoughts. I mean, you look at that back four right there. I think that's pretty set. Obviously, with Des being out, Cannon, the news just like an hour or so ago. I'd say Yedlin's pretty much your nailed on starter there. Miles and Zimmerman, that's pretty much been a staple for the last 5, 6, 7 games, and then A-Rob, holding it down at that left back spot. There's a few, Ethan Horvath. I have no issues if that's who Greg decides to start. I don't know if he's come out and said that they're 100%. I think he said they're close. Zach Steffen obviously being healthy and being his number one for a long time. It's a toss up there, but me personally, I don't have an issue with either one. Then you start getting into the midfield. I think Yunus Musa is a lock. De La Torre, I can easily see just kind of slipping in there into the McKinney role. No, he's not Weston McKinney. Let me be perfectly clear. No one is Weston McKinney. But we've seen some quality. The last window, he really showed that he can do the job there.
Hey, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Acosta or Adams in this game? What's your approach? Because I feel like everything else you could waver, because I kind of agree with you. Like the 2 8s and the back line and the keep, I'm fine with. If that's what it is, it's fine. I think I'd probably go Steffen, but it's close. You could potentially argue for another center back, but whatever. The big one here is, are you going Acosta or are you going Adams from this midfield back line?
So, okay. And so that's where I was going with the 6. It's I could see both ways, right? You've got the whole narrative with Adams sitting on that yellow accumulation, and if he gets that versus Mexico, which is obviously going to be a chippy game, then he misses the Panama match, right? But then I started thinking, is that the worst situation, right? You're going to want to be more defensive anyways, and that's obviously Tyler Adams' biggest strength. As far as Mexico, they're going to want to get out and play with us more. Let's say he picks up a yellow, and we have to start Kellen Acosta against Panama, who's going to be sitting in a lower block. What do we know about Kellen Acosta? He, so far, I mean, obviously Rain is in camp, but Kellen Acosta has been one of the best set-piece delivery guys that we have. So if you're going to be playing a Panama who are going to be sitting in that lower block, and you're going to want to have quality delivery on those set pieces because they're going to be very vital, you might have started him in Panama anyways. So I don't know if you necessarily need that flip-flop.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I was debating this with actually Tack on his lineup, and I think if you're going into this game against Mexico, I don't feel comfortable with a midfield of Musa, who's young, right? Who's great on the ball, but he's a young guy and he's still inexperienced, right? De La Torre
This is the greatest player of all time. Don't
one of the
Don't
greatest players.
disrespect Musa. I'm just kidding.
Still, and then you've got Della Torre, who's shown up in one game. So we have no idea how he's going to play against Mexico. And then you have Acosta, who is inconsistent. And I don't think that we stand a chance to beat Mexico unless we have a somewhat of a solid midfield, right? Because the games are decided there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you lose Adams because of a yellow card and we can get a draw in Mexico, the team's still good enough to beat Panama at home. Like, let's not
100%.
all of a sudden think Panama's an amazing team that we struggled with away. We struggled with a lot of teams away, including Honduras and El Salvador, and we managed to beat them at home. Controlling the ball, and I think that's how the Panama game is going to be. But I don't want to go into the Panama game getting slaughtered by Mexico, and then feeling, not only do we have to win that game, but like we're low on confidence. If we screw this up, then we have to win Costa Rica. I'd rather play a really hard game, and we may lose against Mexico, but I'd rather lose 1-0 in a hard-fought game, 2-1 hard-fought game, than get crushed at the Azteca 3-0.
That makes sense, Cal. I think here's the big point that I've thought about for the last 2-3 days, right? And before we get to the front line, I do want to talk about the front line, but I think your midfields, right, in soccer, and your back line, in a lot of ways, experience and playing together matters a lot, right? I think the more you play together in those spots, the more connected your buildup is, and the more connected. There's a lot of defensive slides and how you're going to cover for each other. And if I'm Walker Zimmerman, I got a feel for what Miles does at this point, right? And if I'm Adams and I play with those guys, I kind of know how to cover for their weaknesses. And so here's my point: like, we're coming into this window, and with the injuries that we have, with Gio coming back in, right, with adding PFOC in, there are going to be a lot of differences just naturally, right? Like, we're going to have guys adjusting to each other a little bit. It's not like they've never played with each other, but like, it's not like they've been playing with each other for 6 straight games. To me, what I don't want to do is I don't want to rotate like 7 guys between these 2 games, because for me, Panama is the most important game, and being rested for that is important. But just as important, these guys are professional soccer players. Do we not think they can play 2 games in 4 days at a high? Of course they can, right? Like, I saw somebody post like City's upcoming schedule, Liverpool's upcoming schedule. These teams do this stuff all the time, right? Like, Liverpool plays a massive EPL game, a massive Champions League game, and then another massive EPL game. And they rotate a little bit, but they're not rotating 8 guys out of their lineup, right? And there's a reason for that. And I think with us, it's even more vital, because what I don't want is, I'm not going to name all the names, but we just named 7 backline guys, not counting the keeper, right? What I don't want is, I don't want 4 of those guys to play against Mexico and to be swapped out. Because to me, that's like total non-continuity for the biggest game. I want continuity in the first 2 games. To me, it's a 2-game window. And if we end up needing that 3rd game, that sucks. But it is what it is. But let's go. This is a 2-game window. Let's go get it done in 2 games. Get a point and go get 3 points.
So who do you
wrapped?
So who do you guys have then as your midfield 3?
Yeah, I'm going with our best 3 for this window, which I think is those 2 8s. And I think it's Adams. I mean, I think you could argue some other guys over De La Torre and maybe the Panama game. I think in this game, we need activity in the midfield. We need ball driving in the midfield. And, the most active / skilled, right, midfield that we can put out there is those 2 guys plus Adams. So,
neither of you guys have Reyna, because I had Reyna in my lineup. I had Adams.
Starting. No, I think Reyna is my starting 8. I just hesitate to start him right off the jump in this game. I'd like to bring him off the bench, and then I'd like to, for him, I think we can start him 1 out of the 2 games. I don't feel a whole. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Listen, if he feels good about starting both games, let's throw Gio Reyna.
He just played 90 in Germany, so.
Yeah, just played 90 in Germany. A lot of that, that's one of those things. It's just like, it's a behind the scenes thing for me. Like, Gio's in my first 11 for sure. If he's feeling good and the staff feels good, medical staff feels good, put him out there. Let's rock. But
Caleb, I want your point of view, but I have Reyna in there because I think if he does start, then I think it's going to change how we play for the rest of the, for the, not just this window, not just these next 3 games, right? but for the rest of the summer leading into the World Cup, contemplating that we're qualifying, because if he plays him at the 8 position on either side, right, that means that Reyna is going to be playing that, is fighting for a position there with Musa probably, and meaning he's thinking Weah could own that right wing spot, right? So I'd love to see that, because I feel like that could be Reyna's best position going forward. What's your thought?
So it's difficult. I have Reyna starting in the midfield for Panama for sure. I'm hesitant with the hammy. Those injuries, they're tricky, right? And then you're coming in. He just played 90 in a club match. It's different. This is the World Cup qualifier in Azteca. It's Mexico. We know how they play. We know, Ache, how he likes to play, what he's going to be doing. He's coming for blood. And when you go into playoff games, they're this isn't playoff game obviously, but it's that type of atmosphere. It's different. And I don't know if I want to put that kind of stress and then risk losing him for the rest of the window or more at that point. But it's one of those things, like you said, Adam. Does he say he feels good? Are the medical professionals saying that there's nothing to worry about? Then maybe you look at it differently. I could see saving him a little bit, because you don't necessarily need to have Reyna there, when you have a De La Torre who, you're right, we haven't seen him versus a Mexico. We don't really know exactly what we're going to get from him, but we know his qualities and we know what he wants to do. So it's hard. I'm being wishy-washy right now, but I think for me, I'm probably playing it safe with Reyna.
Yeah, you got to factor in, the altitude there too. It's like, it's a tough spot if you're not all the way back, right? And that's the worst possible outcome is a Gio or pull, like an injury of any of these guys. But I think he's probably at the most risk right now. I definitely don't want that. I mean, I think I like, so one of the arguments I've heard, I want to talk about this argument because I think it's legit, right? This is kind of the Doyle argument as I'm coining it. But a lot of, I heard Greg Velasquez on Scuffed had this as well. There's a lot of like smart soccer people who are really advocating for throwing out, almost like a let's go wear them down lineup. I think Asa from Touchlines and Touchdowns said this too. Like, let's go throw a wear them out lineup. Let's go Areola. Let's go, some grinders in the midfield. They're just going to bust their ass. And let's keep it 0-0. And then let's bring our best in against a worn down Mexico at 0-0. Cal, what are your thoughts on just that approach here for this game?
Listen, I see that. I think we're overthinking it, and I think every time the U.S. is overthought or anyone overthinks, right, in any level, that's when you start getting in trouble, right? Because we could play within 2 minutes and they could score off a corner kick, and then what I mean, like set pieces, and then we know that they're going to control the ball. And we know they're going to control the ball, and I think that we're going to have to press, and we're going to have the players hustle. But I don't think putting in a bunch of jokesters up front that are just going to run around and not really be able to create anything attack is the best way. I mean, for ages, the best way to attack, the best defense is attack also, right? Mm-hmm. So Pulisic scares them. Weah scares them. Having somebody who's a target striker up there that can defend the ball, get us a few free kicks, and gets us some set pieces. That to me sounds like a much better plan. And again, like you said, it's a two-match window. We should try our hardest to try to get this done. We've got Pulisic in the best form, in the last 3 to 4 years. Arguably, he's playing amazing right now. And I was, 2 podcasts ago said he might need to sit on the bench for Aronson if he wasn't at his best form, but he's in the best form, at least in the last 2 years, easily. You have to play him, right? And I'm sure is dying to play and prove himself for the country. So I disagree with that. I think it's
yes. So you're not going grinders then. You're not like, let's grind it for 60. Caleb, how do you obviously, I don't think it's what you're doing based on what you've said so far, but what's your just general take on that approach? Do you see value in that approach? Like, what are your problems with it?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think I'm splitting hairs on it. I don't necessarily want to throw out an Ariella and a Roldan and just let them run. I want to put out a strong lineup, but I have thought about maybe Pulisic coming in for 30 minutes, just because of how dangerous he has been in that role. I mean, he has been even in poor form, uh, periods of time, he's still shown that he can have an impact coming in as a super sub, like with that 20, 30-minute type window. Um, but I mean, can you imagine Mexico's defenders when they see Pulisic and Arena on the sideline ready to sub in at the 65-minute mark? I mean, they just their legs are jelly, and now they've got to guard a Christian Pulisic and a Gio Reyna. Um, I don't know. It's one of
No,
those things where I've said that I'm glad I'm not Berhalter in this situation. I'm glad I don't have to make the call, because there are a lot of different ways. The only thing that scares me is Berhalter has shown a propensity to overthink things sometimes and overanalyze things sometimes. And we've seen weird lineups that don't make any sense, and then we have poor results from it. I mean, it took, what, 3 or 4 subs at halftime for the Honduras match just to turn that around, because he got it wrong up front. So I
yeah,
don't know, it's tough, but I would rather go. I'd
let's
rather go at it, man.
not
Honestly,
see a
I think I'd
random
rather just go at it.
formation. Let's not see random guys who haven't played together. Like that's my biggest. Like I want as much continuity as possible from
Right.
what we have done to Mexico, and then from Mexico to Panama. And I get that you're going to have to rotate a couple spots and move. Like I get that, but at the same time, we got to respect the fact that it's a 2-game window. Here are my general thoughts. So I think that I totally get the value, and it's like a logical soccer argument what all those guys are saying. My biggest worry, Mexico's good. Like I get that Mexico's played bad, and I get that they have some injuries of their own. It's still a good team. Like it's still a really dangerous team. And if we throw a lineup out there that's not optimized, right? If we throw a lineup out there that performs the way the Honduras away or the Panama away lineups did, right? For whatever reason, Mexico could go get 2 goals, 3 goals. Like they could go 2-3 up on us. And to me, that's the disaster is like, oh my God, like we're we're getting dominated. And now, like, it doesn't even matter if we bring in Pulisic and Reyna, right? Like, bring them in down 2-3-0. It's like, oh, we're not getting 2-3 goals probably, right? Like, and now we go into the Panama game having been dominated, not even having thrown out our best team. The energy's bad. The guys haven't played together. The nerves are high, right? Like, to me, if we put our best team out against Mexico, I know I said I like expect to win a couple of shows ago, Cal. Definitely don't expect to win anymore if we don't have McKennie, just being honest. But like, I do think we can get a result. I do think we can make it a tight game. Like we might lose 2-1 or 1-0. We could also tie 1-1. We could also win 1-0 if we, really get lucky. I don't think that's that likely, but I want to go after the game, and I want our guys feeling good about what they do. And then I want them going into the Panama game, whether win, lose, or draw against Mexico, having played soccer together and feeling good about it and being like, we're good, guys. Let's go get this one.
It's really gonna be a test of what's the mentality of the team, right? Because I think it speaks loud that we're not afraid of Mexico and we're not afraid of the upcoming games by playing our best lineup and playing to win, right? Because if we were any other country, if this was the last 3 games in European qualifying or another in South America, would a top team decide to sit a bunch of players before they play? Like, would Brazil sit a bunch of their players before they're about to play, like Ecuador or Venezuela or something like that? Like this is a game that they can win. They're just as good as Mexico. They've been playing better than Mexico throughout the qualifying. They've beaten them now 3 times in the last year. Let's go and win this. Let's get to 3 points and then beat Panama, get 6 points, and then like call up whatever, call up whoever you want and give people like that last game to just celebrate being on the pitch and feel good, you know?
Hey,
And not only that, celebrate qualifying at home. How good would that feel instead of, getting a win and being actually exactly where we were 4 years ago, beating Panama, and then going into a game where we might only need a draw, but if we lose, we could get knocked out. Like it's not the way to go.
Yeah, that's no bueno. I do feel good about the fact that if we beat Panama, I shouldn't say I feel good about it. There's some consolation that if you beat Panama, you actually are at least like you can move forward. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't just go home. And that's like obviously a absolute worst case scenario, but somewhere in my demented, Kuva brain that's just been corrupted by that experience, I like find some little bit of comfort in it. But I don't want that. Hey, let's just kind of dial in on our front lines right here. So I'll give you guys what my front line thoughts are for these two games. I'm going Pulisic and Weah starting both games. We'll figure out the sub and the rotation, but those are my first unit wingers right now, and I don't put Gio at right wing with how Weah has been playing. Second game, I'm bringing Gio in to start against Panama in the midfield. To me, that is our best lineup. Gio, Weah, Pooley, right? Like that is crazy good. If I know we don't play with a 10, but the 10 and the two wingers, if that's kind of how you think about it, woo, that's tough. And now you put Musa and Adams behind, and it's like, if that team does not lose to Panama, like I just can't, like there's no way. I don't care if they played 3 days before. I don't care. Like we're getting it done. The biggest one for me is the 9. That's where I'm rotating between the two games. So game 1, I'm going with Ferreira in game 1, and I'm going with Pifak in game 2. And I'll give my rationale. I think against Mexico, we're going to need a 9 who controls the ball a little bit more and can do a little bit more connecting and can make things happen. I think against Panama, I think the game's going to be mucked up. I think we're going to have to play. I think they're going to force us to play wide and cross in a bunch, and we can try and play through the middle. I just think they're going to take that away, honestly, and I think they're going to like really, really pack it in. And so I just think we're going to need somebody to go get some aerial balls, right? And Pepe for me is kind of super subbing in both games. He's the guy. I could see an argument for Pifak coming in late against Mexico too, but I kind of like the idea of Pepe just being the guy like, hey, Pep, you get 20, 30 minutes both games. Run your butt off both games. Just go all out. Pifak, you got game 2. Ferreira, you got game 1. Boom, there we go. That's kind of how I'm lining up on the front. Caleb, what are you thinking about the front line? Any differences?
Yeah, pretty similar. I do think, with Pepe, the storyline's there, right? Coming in, getting an equalizer in Mexico, and it's right there. But I'm with you. I think Ferreira's coming in. He's in form. He's feeling it. You're going to want that movement. So I have him starting as well. Well, yeah, I'm not touching him. Right, you got to keep him on that right wing with the form he's in. He's feeling it. What he's been doing for the national team, rather, and then. With Pulisic, it's one of those toss-ups. Like I mentioned before, I can see him coming in at the 60-minute mark and being, just kind of splitting the game wide open, running against tired legs. But then you also kind of have to think about he's coming in with just unbelievable amounts of confidence right now. So just go ahead and play him, right? I'm not worried about injury or anything. He's fine. He's feeling good. So I think I'm probably starting him. So yeah, I'm with you. Pulisic, Ferreira, and Weah, and then I have Pifak against Panama as well. I will say this: if we're needing a goal late and we got about 10 minutes left, look, I'm not kidding. Bring in EPB for Ferreira, Pepe, whoever's playing striker, and he can play center back. Put Walker Zimmerman up top. And just lump the crosses in.
Hail Mary play.
Listen. Who's is it? Costa Rica has done it with Kendall Waston a few times. They've literally like the last 10 minutes put him up there because he's so good with his head. Zimmerman is that dude when it comes to aerial balls in the box. And if you have 10 minutes left, well, I mean, and that's all you're doing is just lumping balls in the box. I can't really think of anybody else I'd rather have on the end of those.
Oh, I like it. Throwing out something spicy and different there, Caleb.
Yeah.
I like what you did.
Usually that happens when like a team's run out of strikers. Like there was no strikers on the bench, so they're like, you know what, we're going to put in. But listen, I don't think there's. I think based on Aronson being out, based on Reyna, McKennie being out, and that kind of center midfield, there's a couple open ended. I think it's logical that Pulisic and Way are going to be, I think those are the starting wings anyways. And I think Reyna, once he gets, it'll be a call on with Berhalter if he's going to play him right wing anymore, if he's going to try him going forward. I personally think for the first game, I'm not really sure who's going to play there, but I have a weird feeling he's going to play Pefok starting the first game. One, because I look at it a little bit differently. I don't know between Weah and Pulisic and Ferreira, but especially Pulisic and Ferreira, there is some counterattacking there, but I also feel like they're just going to get bounced around a little bit by the Mexican defenders because it's going to be a very physical game where they're not going to call a lot of fouls. And every time Pulisic's going to touch the ball, they're going to try to knock him down. So I do feel I'd like to have Pulisic and Weah, try to dribble, try to get by their men, get some free kicks. And I also think we're going to need somebody who can get the ball with his back to goal. And both Pefok and Pepe can do that. Pefok's the hotter hand, and he's got confidence. And he's somebody that I think doesn't bring enough off the bench because he's not like particularly that fast, right? He's not like that impact player. I think if you play Pefok, you should play him from the beginning. So I think against Mexico, I would go Aronson, Weah, Pefok. And then
I'll give you my biggest Pefok worry. I want you to respond to it. My biggest Pefok worry against Mexico is that the way we've been successful against Mexico is pressing the crap out of them, not a Pefok strength. And then I think also just we have to kind of lump it up to our striker a good bit, and he's just also not great at that from what I've seen. I haven't watched all of his young boy games, but
I mean, you're talking about the pressing. If I remember the goals that we scored against Mexico, I mean, they were just your typical way. I mean, Weah took it wide and crossed it, and somehow Pulisic got behind it, and that's part of the reason why he got into that position is because there was a big target striker like Pepe in there. So I think we've done okay pressing them to kind of get the ball, but I think our goals have still come from set pieces against Mexico, right? They've come from getting balls into the box against Mexico. And again, if we're going to do that counter-attacking, I'd rather have somebody like a Pepe or a Ferreira in the second half with a little bit more speed. Because I think Pefok off the bench, the only thing he's going to do second half is we're going to be throwing crosses into him. I feel like I'd rather have him when the rest of the team is fresh. Game 2 against Panama, I mean, I think it depends also on the result. I think if we lose against Mexico, I could see him just putting Pepe in and trying to go with somebody else up top to try to get as many goals and put pressure against Panama. If we win or draw, I don't mind seeing Ferreira. I actually would love to see Ferreira. I think he's grown on me over the last couple months. And I think with Pepe leaving has given him more leadership, and he's actually stepped up. And I think for the longest time, remember, before the Pepe train happened, I think everyone was touting Ferreira to be the next guy moving to Europe. He's a bit older, going to Europe before Pepe. Pepe kind of just like started to be a goal machine, got noticed, and kind of overshadowed Ferreira. So that's me. I mean, personally, Pefok and then Ferreira in the second game.
My biggest worry about Pepe right now is he's a young player and he's going through a really tough moment in his career. And it's no big deal. He's 18. Like for the long term, I'm not worried at all, right? It's a part of growth, and it's a part of going to a place like Europe and going to a tough league. But I do think you're more susceptible at that age if you don't have a ton of, like, Pooley has a lot of success behind him, right? That like when he falls into a rough patch, he can fall back on a lot of success to pull him out of it, right? Pepe doesn't have that much success and no success at the current level he's at, right? So I'm a little bit worried about just where his headspace is at. And honestly, I could see Pepe not playing. I think coming off the bench is perfect for him. It's less pressure and let him go do it. What are your thoughts, Caleb, on Pepe and where he's at right now and how we should kind of utilize him?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think in a sub role, it kind of relieves a little bit of that pressure. He's he's a natural goal scorer, so I don't think the issues with Augsburg are really gonna affect him in the long run. I think he's fine. Like you said, he's 18, he's young. These things happen. But I'm probably bringing him off the bench,
But
off the games.
if
Well, I
you
mean,
win
Costa Rica.
Mexico, if we win against Mexico, or if we draw against Mexico, right? Would you, and let's say P. Falk or Ferreira start the first game, right? And Pepe doesn't come off the bench. You wouldn't
Mhm.
start Pepe no matter what against Panama
If we win versus Mexico,
or draw.
I don't think it changes much because if we win versus Mexico, I'm just gonna go ahead and give 3 points to Panama since they're playing Honduras, and Honduras are pretty much all but gonna roll over. So I think you're still gonna have the same, type of situation you went into the Panama game, regardless of whether we get 1 or 3. So I mean, it changes the math a little bit, but you're still going into Panama needing to win. And I'm playing PFOC against Panama. Like I said, they're going to be in that lower block. I want a big target to go direct to, like lumping those crosses. With Mexico, the thing about Mexico is they like to play with us, right? They're not going to sit there in a low block like they're afraid of us. They're gonna step out. So there are a lot of times where there's space in behind Mexico, whereas we can't do that versus a Panama. If you look at going back to like Gold Cup, Paul Arriola had an opportunity. You were talking about we score a lot of set pieces against them. I think it's because we just don't convert the chances because of the quality we've had. But if you go back to the last World Cup qualifier against them, we had two in the run of play. Weah's goal or Weah's cross to Pulisic, and then McKinney's. All those came through the run of play because Mexico actually want to play and we have quality. I think people I feel like people kind of sleep on the fact that breaking down a low block is extremely difficult to do, regardless of the quality that's on the other side. They're still professional
Really hard.
athletes.
Really
I mean, it's unbelievably hard. So I think with Mexico, I'm starting Ferreira. He's going to have a ton of movement. We're going to have space. We're going to be able to get in those, little Man City zones. Um, and I want that movement. And a lot of goals are going to be coming from those little cutbacks to the top. Um, and so Pepe coming in as a sub role with no pressure versus Mexico. Start PFOC with Panama because it made a low block. Pepe coming in if you need him, and then hopefully, like you said earlier in the pod, Adam, you get everything done in the first two games, and then with Costa Rica, start him. Who cares? Because at that point, you're playing with house money.
Yeah, I think, I feel like we've landed in a good place. I feel like I got a good gauge of where you guys are at with the lineup. Man, I'm really interested to see. I guess it's going to be 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow when we actually see what comes out. I'm so pumped to see what Berhalter's approach is going to be.
I'm nervous.
I think
Scared.
there'll be one surprise. I think there's going to
Who's
be.
going to surprise? I agree.
I think the back line seems pretty sure. I think most people are fine with if it's Steffen or Horvath. I think he's going to go with Steffen. I think that there's going to be a surprise in attack, and I think there'll be a surprise in the midfield.
I think he's going to go Paul Arriola in attack. I actually think the midfield he's going to go
See it.
Musa and Luca. I wouldn't call Acosta a big surprise to me because that's not like illogical to think you would play Acosta with Adams on a yellow. Like I get that logic. I wouldn't do it, like I said, but like I think we'll see Arriola though.
Well, do you think Reina? I think if Reina plays midfield, it's a surprise to me just because I
that would be that would be shocking. If he has Reina starting in the midfield, that would be first of all, it's the first time they'll have ever started Reina in the midfield.
Right.
Like so yeah, definitely agreed.
Do you think anyone else has a chance of starting Busio, Roldan?
No.
I don't. No. As much as people love to hit the Roldan thing, he actually doesn't play Roldan very much. He brings Roldan in very spot. Just kind of looking at the other midfielders, I really don't. It would be shocking if he played Busio over De La Torre just for what this game is. I could see him doing that in game 2 if Reina isn't good to start. I could see him going with Busio.
Well, Busio, remember, is a much more possession led player. I would say De La Torre, what he brings is more similar, I would say, to Busio's not going to tear through the lines, right?
Yep.
Like Musa does, right? Busio, someone you give the ball, he can pick out a pass, he can drop deep to help out Adams. I think he's an interesting person.
Busio against Panama makes a lot of sense. Like
It's a
it
ton of
does.
sense. You're gonna have the ball a ton more. Plus, De La Torre, he's a lot quicker and a lot scrappier than I thought. The last time we saw him,
Great.
he surprised me. I think he surprised a lot of people, to be honest with you.
He's scrappy in the Eredivisie too. Like
Mhm.
I don't think he's an elite defensive player for sure, but like I heard he was like a terrible defender like last year, and then I watched. I was like, he's not terrible,
Yeah.
but
No, he's
really,
a step up from Busio.
I don't want to step on my special topic, so we're gonna park the bus on Luca. I want to come back to him at the end. Hey, let's go. Second topic here in the brace. Just this is point situations, right? So we currently find ourselves with 21 points. We're 4 clear of 4th place Panama. We're 5 clear of 5th place Costa Rica. And so I just want to kind of give us some of the scenarios that we could be facing here. And I'm not gonna talk about our result yet. I'll let us kind of talk about what we think our result could be. But we've got in game 1, you've got Costa Rica playing at home against Canada, right? So you've got Canada going down playing Costa Rica. You've got Panama. Is Panama kicking off against Honduras?
First, I believe it's Honduras.
Right. I'll double check it, but I know they play Honduras in one of those, either the first or the third game. I think it's the first game. So I've kind of like etched Panama in for 3 points. That's just kind of how Honduras is terrible. It's really bad. And I think the game's in Panama.
They don't even have Albert Feliz.
Yeah. So I mentioned them in for 3, right? I think they're going to be at 20 points. I think we're looking at Panama and 20 points. Canada versus Costa Rica is a little different for me. I'll give my thoughts here first. I think Canada's going to play. I really do. Like, I don't think Canada's going down there in game 1 of the window going, we're good. Like, I think they're going like, hey, let's lock it up, boys. 29 pretty much locks up first place at this point, right? So I think they're at 20. Are they 26 points? 24 points? I got to pull up the table. But I think like they're going down, going 3 points pretty much locks up first. I think they're going all out in game 1. And I just think Herdman's built something where those guys aren't like going at 50% capacity. Like those guys are going all out. I think that game's a draw. I could even see Canada winning the game, but I'm going to say it's a draw and that Costa Rica figures out a way to scrap it to a draw. So I think you go into game 2 with Costa Rica at 17 points, Panama at 20 points, which would be gorgeous, right? Because now the Costa Rica thing is out. The Costa Rica, catching us, 9-point window, all that stuff, that's out. And so what do you guys think happens with our Mexico game and that Costa Rica game in the first set?
I think, honestly, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, US-Mexico. Getting a win there it's a dream. That one day, hopefully, we'll see. I don't know if we see it. I don't know if we see it tomorrow. If McKennie and Dest were healthy and we were full strength, maybe I'd put some money on it, but I'd think it's probably 0-0, 1-1, something like that. But I think we get out of there with a point.
And what do you think's going to happen in that Canada game with Canada going down to
Yeah,
Costa Rica?
I'm with you. I think Herdman, like he was talking about being upset with their last window, which I believe was a 9-point window. The way they played, he doesn't strike me as someone who's gonna take the foot off the gas at all. I think they're going down there and they're pedal to the metal, probably get out there with 3 points. If not, they're going to be hard to play against, and I don't see a win. So, best case scenario for Costa Rica is a point, maybe. I don't see them beating Canada.
Yeah, so according to you, Caleb, you've got us at 22 points. You've got Costa Rica at 17. So we're 5 clear of Costa Rica going into game 2, and then we'd be 2 clear of Panama going into game 2 here. Cal, do you agree with that?
I think you guys are way too you guys are way too optimistic, and also are not taking into account that these are do or die games for all the teams, right? So I think, I hope I'm wrong, because I think you'd rather be wrong and then be happy. I think the U.S. is going to lose 3-1 at the Azteca. I think that they're going to. I think Mexico wants this so badly. We've obviously we're going to have a very inexperienced team, I think, in general on the pitch, and being in this moment for the first time, playing at the Azteca with this much pressure, I mean, if you look at the guys who are there, how many of those guys have played a World Cup qualifier versus Mexico away? And then add on top of that the pressure that Mexico has to deliver. Mexico's has a healthy Lozano now, a healthy Jimenez, a healthy Corona who's playing well. They have pretty much their a full strength lineup, and they can't afford actually to lose or draw, because then it makes it complicated for themselves as well, because it's a home game. So I think we're going to lose 3-1. And then I think Costa Rica, I don't think it's that sure. I don't think Herdman is taking anything for granted, right? But I do think also, remember, Costa Rica's at home. I think that I think that game could end up being a draw, personally. I'm not saying I think Canada's a much better team, but I think Costa Rica's like, if we lose this game, we almost have zero shot of making it. So if the team's going to play, it's going to be the game they play at home, right? And they're going to give it everything that they have. I don't know about the other games. I mean, they're a little bit. I think Panama will beat Honduras at home. I think that's pretty easy, and I don't think anyone really cares about Jamaica, El Salvador.
No, the rest of the games are not here. So,
but,
Cal, you got us at 21 points. You've got Panama at 20, and you got Costa Rica at 17. So you're predicting a draw there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm predicting a draw with Costa Rica, Canada at Costa Rica, and then predicting us to lose at the Azteca.
Yeah, I don't agree with the 3-1. I think it'll be way closer than 3-1. My highest percentage play is definitely an L. There's a part of my heart that feels like we get a draw out of this, but I don't know. There's another part that's just like, isn't the luck going to run out? We've been really lucky against Mexico so far. I get that we were 3-0. We were also pretty dang lucky. And so the way the soccer gods work, in my opinion, is eventually your luck kind of runs out, and the favor tilts back and the luck tilts back. And so it seems like it's going to be that kind of day, and that's okay. We're okay. And so I agree. I think we're going to go into that game up 1 on Panama. I think Canada's going to actually win that game. I think Canada's just way better, and they have a ton to prove. And I get that Costa Rica is old dudes, but Costa Rica is not very good. That's just, and I get they just had an awesome window. I think Canada goes down and makes a big statement and just kind of knocks them off. So I have us going in to that Panama game basically just needing to beat Panama. Like, where if we beat Panama, we lock it all up. We lock all the goods are up. The last game doesn't matter. And I think that happens. What do you guys think about game 2? I know we're all nervous about that one, but I'm actually way less nervous than Cuva when I actually logically think about it. And so this will be my last piece before I let you guys touch on what I'm about to say. And when I went back and looked at the lineup that we started at Trinidad and Tobago, whoa. Those are not good. There's a lot of not good soccer players or over the hill soccer players that were on the field for that game, man. And a young Pulisic, right? Carrying the load. And I get that it still was an unexpected result, but I look at who we can throw out against Panama. We just talked about it, right? Arena, Musa, Puglia, Weah, whoever we play at the 9. Our back line's been really solid, right? We've been one of the best. I think we've been the best defensive team, right? Maybe along with Canada in the Ocho. So I feel really good about it. I think we're set up for success in that game. I think it's going to be one of those 2-0 kind of home wins to lock it up. What do you guys think happens in game 2? We kind of know where both of you are at after game 1.
I think we get the job done. Panama at home, like I said, Panama's done what they were supposed to do versus the rest of CONCACAF. We gifted them one early. They took advantage of that. And so they're sitting where they're sitting because they've done a decent job. But let's not pretend that they're a good team. I think they're going to come in feeling okay. I mean, they're coming off of a Honduras win. I'm just speaking that into existence. They're going to be coming in pretty confident. But being at home, knowing what's on the line, I think our boys shut it down. I could see, honestly, 3-0 win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said it before, and I think other people said it. If in 3 games where we can't get 4 points against Mexico, Panama and Costa Rica, then we don't deserve to go to the World Cup. Just like if we didn't manage to get a draw against Trinidad and Tobago away, we didn't deserve to go to the World Cup, and that's exactly what happened. Like, if you can't get a draw against Trinidad C, says that you didn't deserve to go there when all the other teams have. So I think Panama is going to be. I'm not worried about Panama. The only reason would be worried about Panama is if we get destroyed against Mexico, and then we have a bunch of injuries going into Panama, and there's like, you know, we obviously have to start Roldan and like Brooks Lennon and like every player that we don't want to be on the pitch. So I think it's going to be similar to the other ones, maybe like a 2-0 win. It's going to take us a while to get knocked through because they're going to be playing the low block. We're going to get a goal. Mm-hmm. They're going to, you know, have to push up a little bit because they're going to try to get a draw, and then we'll get a second one in. I don't think it'll be a blowout because I agree. But you know, I really hope that I'm completely wrong and we get it done in the first game. But I think that there's this very strong chance we're still going to have to go into the last game. You know, not saying we have to win. We could maybe even lose that game, just depending how the results go against Costa Rica. But I do think I think there's a strong chance we're not going to be 100% qualified after the first two matches.
Yeah,
God, I hope not.
There's a chance, right? Like, we could talk about that scenario. I think that scenario relies on Costa Rica playing their balls off, in my opinion, and us totally, you know, crapping the bed against Panama. One of those two things would have to happen.
But if we lose against Mexico, which is very possible, I think out of the three scenarios, I would say draw and loss, or I would put money on those over winning any day, right? But if we lose against Mexico and beat against Panama, that's 3 points. And I think that there's a lot of scenarios where, especially if Panama wins and then Costa Rica can somehow
Panama wins
win in a
us,
draw.
You're saying we're winning the second game?
Yeah, I'm saying if Costa Rica,
there's only one scenario that we're not qualified at that point, though. It's
we only get 3 points.
If we lose,
if we get 3 points against Panama, the only scenario we're not qualified at that point is if Costa Rica's taken both games.
Right. But we could go into the fourth spot, right? Into
if we beat Panama, they cannot pass us, right? So the only scenario now is Costa Rica needs to beat us at home, and they also need to go into that game with 6 points, right?
They have to win both first.
It's a really unlikely scenario. It's not that unlikely. I mean, it's probably more likely than a lot of the stuff that happened during Cuba, to be honest, but like, it's not that likely. I want to talk about a tweet that I thought was really good, and I think it pertains to this. It was Alex Muncy put out a Twitter thread, and he kind of like broke down all of our away points by cycle. And I thought it was really interesting because, like, you know, you hear a lot of stuff out there, which is like, yo, man, you can't expect us to win all these away games. You can't expect that. And I think that what he kind of talked about was our points per away game that weren't at Costa Rica and Mexico, which I think is a smart way to look at it, right? Those have been our two Achilles heels. And other than that, we've been really good. We've averaged over 2 points for, I think he said, every cycle going back to 2002. So away games, non-Mexico and non-Costa Rica, over 2 points. We haven't played Costa Rica and Mexico yet, and I think we're right now at 5 points in, I think, 5 games or something like that. So we're at like 1 point per match. I just thought it was a really good point that, like, anybody that has a problem with how we performed away, it's not unrealistic expectations. We're actually just asking for us to be somewhat close to what we've already proven that we can do in this region, right? I get we were more experienced, all that. But here's what I want to talk about right now. Like, we're probably not getting more than a point away in this window, right? And here's where I'm okay. We've been awesome at home. We've been great at home. We beat Mexico at home, right? Our only real blemish at home is we drew Canada. And you know, and to be honest, I believe we started Leggett and Acosta at the 8s in that game, which is to me, that's a Berhalterism. It's like, okay, yeah, if we start Lletget and Acosta and play them for 60 minutes, yeah, we're probably going to struggle to score as much as we could otherwise, right? So I feel good because of that. I think we've been really good at strong at home. And I just think this team and this group of guys is ready to win that game at home. And I think if you win that game at home, you're in really, really good shape, barring some really unforeseen circumstances with Costa Rica.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think you guys, if Costa Rica beats Canada, right, and we lose against Mexico, or will you guys start worrying?
Yes. Well, I mean, if that happens, we really are just looking at the Trinidad and Tobago game again. But at least it's at home, not on like a rain-soaked pitch like that we can't control. Like we're going to still be able to control the pitch. That game will be in great conditions, barring some kind of crazy rainstorm or thunderstorm. Like we should have a okay pitch, and we know what the opponent is. You said it earlier, Cal. This is Panama. Like we're good. We're okay, man. Like
yeah, I don't think anyone's worried about the Panama game. I think,
but we all will be if the scenario you said plays out, right? Like all of our, and it's just like PTSD. Like it's PTSD of like, I was here before and I wasn't worried after the Panama win last cycle. I was like, we just came off dominating Panama. We're playing this terrible last place Trinidad team. I don't care where you play it. I don't even care if you took our like 10th best American lineup. We should beat this Trinidad team. That's how I felt at that point, and we lost. But like, so it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be more PTSD than anything, not logic. Logic can't think that the Panama game is that's the deal.
I think that's why we're so scared. I mean, it's if we had qualified and we went to the 2018 World Cup, we wouldn't be on the edge of our seats, biting our nails every single day like I have been for this last week or so. It's 100%. It's just it's the PTSD. It's playing tricks on our minds. We're scared to death because until we qualify, the chance of it not happening again and not seeing Pulisic play in a World Cup until he's 27 years old is it's I don't know, it kills me to think about it. I mean, that scenario is like it's doomsday. So I think that's 100% what plays into why we're all just completely like just put me in a coma and then wake me up next week and tell me that the US is qualified, please.
I won't do this podcast for a long time.
Yeah,
right.
I'll be honest about that, man. Like I will be, but let's not think about that because that's not what's going to happen, man. We're about to go win. We're about to go get some dubs and we're going to get some points and we're about to have some big moments. So I want to use that moment to just transition us, Cal, and I think you can jump in with any of your thoughts here. Out of our brace, that was basically the whole show here, but I want to jump into some extra time here and some quick hitters. I know we each have some additional items that we want to kind of talk about. And let's just guess first, man. Caleb, what else is kind of on your mind? What do you want to bring to the table for us to debate and break down and talk about here?
So a couple roster decisions, right? With the whole John Brooks thing, not being involved, not being in camp, and we're being told it's a form thing. There's things he's got to work on. To me, it's borderline insulting. Like just listen, just tell us A, either there was beef, or B, more likely, he was told that he's not going to be the starter and he doesn't want to do that. And so it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to be the starter, we're not going to call you in because you're going to cause problems. That seems to be the situation there. So just, I guess, I don't know. I understand why you don't just come out and say that, but to sit and say that's form, stop. You're going to call in a James Sands who isn't even playing that much for Rangers, but a Brooks who's playing every single day.
Miles has come off like some iffy moments for us the last two windows, and he's playing
bad moments.
This is your guy, right? He's not having a great season this year. I mean, I've watched a little bit, but so it's like,
it's just it's those inconsistencies with what you're saying, what you're feeding us. Just I'd rather you just say, yeah, we're not going to talk about that right now and move on. At least you're, sure, but don't give me a BS. Oh, it's form. Stop. Secondly, Scally, why not? Why not? You don't even have to play him. Just bring him in. There's no cap on the roster. And if we get to Costa Rica and we're qualified, run him out there and he gets experience in a World Cup qualifier. Why would you not do that? Thirdly,
before you move on to your third one, I just want to sit on that one. this Cannon situation's a little worrisome, right?
Right.
Cannon is now on hold with potentially COVID, which if he test positive, he's going to be out for Panama. I'm not that worried about that, but like Yedlin's on a yellow. So Yedlin gets another yellow. We actually are playing like, who are we playing at right back? And so
Adams.
He'll get called in.
Right? Like, what are we doing? Like, why not have, like, I'm with you on that one, Caleb. Why not have the option in case doomsday scenario happens? Like,
and what's it going to hurt?
He can provide cover both ways. And like you said, if you don't like him and you don't actually think you're going to need him, just bring him in. He's a talented guy.
Listen,
let him hit the bench. Let him learn.
If it's a money thing, I'll buy his plane ticket. Right? Come on, it's ridiculous. And there's no
USMNT GoFundMe for Joe Scally's plane ticket would scoop it up like that. By the way, the USMNT like, oh my god.
I don't understand. Like, if I'm Joe Scally, I'm just flying anyways to camp and sleeping outside. Like, I'm here. Hey.
Yeah, like that's like I don't know if you guys will know this reference, but like it's like Major League, like Wesley Snipes in the original Major League, like shows up to training camp. He's like, he just like shows up and he's not even on the roster, and they like put him outside on the bunk bed, and he just like goes in and shows off his speed. Yeah, that was Joe Scally sleeping on a bunk bed outside the stadium. I love it.
But I feel like wear a T-shirt that says I can wear.
I feel like those Scally is.
What was your third one, Caleb?
Oh yeah, sorry, real quick. The third one was just Josh Sargent. Just personally, I'd have him initially in the roster. Just the form that he's in, he's playing really well. He's confident. And then with Brendan Aronson going down, why not bring him in? He can give you cover at striker. He can give you cover at the wing. He plays wing for Norwich every freaking week for whatever reason. The Kapuki's that good, I guess. And then he could play an 8 in an emergency. I'd put Josh Sargent at center back if I needed to. Look, I mean, you see the goal line clearance against, I think was it Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the dude works his absolute butt off. There's no question about it. And he's a great guy in the locker room. He's not going to hurt to bring him in. So it's kind of like the Scally thing. Why not?
Sargent's I think it was a big miss not to bring him in just because it would have given us so many different solutions, especially with Aronson out, like especially when we knew through what Norwich said he was on the reserve list. So it's like if you knew Aronson was out, it's somebody who's been playing on the wing for the last couple, for the last couple of games for Norwich. Why not bring him in and have him come off the bench if you need a goal, in any of the matches, right? He's a strange guy and he's a stubborn person, right? I understand his thing. I understand he has this kind of like political thing, but let's all be honest. And the last thing I'm going to say about Berhalter is if he gets us qualified, right, which is really all that we expected of him, people are still going to be on him no matter what. And remember, this is still a super inexperienced team. Half of these players had not played in World Cup. The age that they are is ridiculously low. I don't know how many coaches, everyone's saying that they would do better. I don't know how many coaches would be okay with playing a bunch of 20-year-olds at the national team and then so much expectations around it. So,
but like, let's just as a group, can we just like stop? Like, Greg Berhalter is the coach of the most important team in America, the soccer team. There is no more important team in our country other than probably the Mexican national team, right? Like for a big portion of our country, but like for people who support American soccer, there's no bigger team. It's the highest stakes. In what other coaching job that's the highest stakes in the sport, country, whatever, is a coach not highly criticized? Like, get over yourselves. Like, I think this is normal, man. Like, do you guys follow sports? Not you guys, but the overall you guys. Like, the head coach of the Lakers, the manager of the Yankees, right? Like the head football coach of name of 10 teams, right, is criticized weekly, 30 times worse than Greg Berhalter ever gets it. Like, get over it. Like, for our community, get over it.
But I want to call out one difference, though. I want to call out one difference, though. I think the difference, one big difference to me is I think that there are a lot of people in the U.S. community, again, not you guys, that think that the U.S. is a lot better than anyone thinks, and actually they are. And I think that they've proven us during this window and over the last couple of years, they're not that good.
But
right?
but you don't know that because it's chicken and egg, P. Like,
but
you don't know that because Greg Berhalter's been the coach. So you can't yes, they've been worse.
Okay.
But is that because Greg Berhalter's the coach, or is that because the players aren't?
I'm sorry, but if it doesn't matter, the players are playing on the field, and regardless of what the coach does, if the U.S. can't play and it looks outplayed against teams like El Salvador and Panama,
so you're saying coaches have never come in, taken over rosters,
and
immediately gotten better results out of people?
No, 100%. Well, the only thing I'm saying is,
I get that the players have underperformed, but those two things are intrinsically linked, right?
Of course, intrinsically linked.
And we don't know. Like, I'm not. We can all speculate. It's Berhalter, it's the player, but we actually don't know. The two things are.
Listen, I think it's a combination of the two, but I also think it's anyone who knows anything about sports knows if you throw a bunch of 18 and 21-year-old players on a pitch that have very little experience, it's going to be hard for anyone to coach them. And I've made this argument to someone before and said, if Spain played all their 18-year-olds, right, all their 18 to 20, didn't have a mix of players. They have the Gavis and the Pedris, right? But it's mixed with a bunch of good experienced players. We've got no good experienced players. Think about it. Pulisic, even though he's one of our most experienced players, is 22 years old and has never played a World Cup. Brooks is our most experienced player. He's not currently called, but he's played one World Cup, and he was terribly young. Like, we don't have that mix of players. We're playing with a bunch of inexperienced players, and that's why we're not very good. I mean, fine, Jesse March could come in and maybe make the team play a bit better. That's also completely hypothetical. But one thing I can 100% tell you, any coach or any team that plays a bunch of 18 to 21, 22-year-olds with as little experience as our team has is always going to have these ups and downs. So as far as I'm concerned, if Berhalter somehow gets this team qualified, right, when 4 years ago we had a more experienced team, a little bit of youth, right, and a lot more experienced coaches in Arena and Klinsmann, and we didn't qualify, I'm more than happy with what Berhalter's done getting into. My fault will be if he doesn't qualify us. If he's even gets through in the last game on a penalty kick in the final minute against Costa Rica and we go through, he did what he had to do. I don't expect more from Berhalter than what we've done.
This isn't as black and white as I think you seem to like. And a lot of people have this. Hey, if he gets it done, like, I agree. I'll be excited. I'll certainly give him way less slack, right, than I do. I'll be like, cool, got the job done. Respect that. But there's a lot in between. You suck, you didn't get us qualified, and you qualified no matter what. So you're good to go. You're my guy. Like,
I disagree.
For me, there's a lot that needs to be improved.
I'm sorry, but I completely disagree. I think to expect a coach like Berhalter with this young team, right, and manage to beat Mexico 3 times, manage to win the Gold Cup, manage to win Nations League, right? This is someone who doesn't rate Berhalter as a coach, and he somehow got us qualified. All anyone cares right now, and us on the phone, us on this Zoom, and everybody on Twitter, the only thing that we care at the end of the day is that the U.S. qualifies. We don't give a fuck how that happens, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but I mean, and there's actual wins. There's actual
but I do, right? Like, I do because I care about U.S. soccer, not just in this short term. I just want to qualify. This is it. Like, for me, there's a far bigger picture. There's 26 and 30. And certainly in the short term, there's only one thing, right? It's this week getting the job done. Agreed. Right. But it doesn't mean like you're beyond reproach for me. It doesn't mean like I'm like, oh, you're good, man. You qualified us. Boom, wrap it up. You're good. Another 4 years. Like,
I think that's a different point.
He's the coach this cycle, right? I'm not shuffling him out.
It's not about 4 years. It's all about this getting to the World Cup and playing. I'm not expecting this team's not going to win the World Cup.
But he's not beyond reproach because he does that. He's not beyond our criticism to say, hey, where could we improve? Hey, what decisions were made about this team that I agree or disagree with, right? Like, most of what is said out there is that. Some of it is very aggressively that, right, by some people. And it's like maybe a little over the top, a lot over the top in some cases. But it comes from a place of people caring about the team and wanting it to be great.
Caleb, what are your thoughts? Sorry, man,
we're harsher than others.
Look, I think the context is important. You're talking about how Berhalter he's been given a task, right? Qualify for the World Cup. And here's your team. Oh, by the way, you have no experience to work with. Have fun. So I think that's important. It's really difficult to go qualify for World Cup and CONCACAF going away. You hear all the interviews with the podcast with like orange slices, right? You got Mark McKenzie, Heath Pierce, you got the veteran, the young guy, right? And they're talking about all these different experiences. And you heard Mark McKenzie talk about how it is different. He's like, you're in Europe, you're playing Champions League, and then he talks about World Cup qualifying. And he's like, it's a different animal, and these kids haven't experienced it. So I think that is absolutely something that should be talked about. It's context that is important. And then to your point, Adam, Berhalter is not above being criticized. He makes dumb decisions all the time that just you're left scratching your head because you can't figure it out and you can't figure out why. But if you look at what he's done, the body of work, he's gotten the job done when he needed to get the job done. CONCACAF Nations League, Gold Cup, we won those tournaments. Wasn't always pretty, but we got it done. And I think it's a lot of that going into this young group we have learning how to be a national team. They're all good club players, but national team and club teams, it's completely different. And they're learning that. And we're watching it real time, and it's growing pains, and it hurts, and it's scary, and it's freaking. It's making me a nervous wreck. I can't. I don't want to go another 4 years without watching a World Cup game with my two kids. Like that's what I want to do. I want to sit. And I want to sit down, have my son, my daughter. I coach both of them. I want to experience the World Cup with them, and I haven't been able to do that yet. So there's a lot riding on it for me. But I think it's crazy to look at Berhalter and judge him and not take into account the difficult task that he's been given based on the players and the roster that he has. Yes, they're extremely talented, but they're so young. These are kids. Like, think about what you were doing at 20, 21, 22 years old. I was an idiot, and I wasn't even that bad, and I was an idiot. There's, like they're young. Like they are learning, and I'm so pumped because I think the job does get done, and I think we do qualify for the World Cup, and I think the experience that we gain in 2022 is going to be invaluable. Watch out for 2026.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's for me. That's when I was trying to say it before. That's the number one reason above all, because everyone's like, "Oh, that's what really pisses me off with the USMT community when they're like, "Oh my God, we're going to qualify. We could actually win. Have you seen Miracles on Ice?" Dude, you're dreaming. The US is not going to win the World Cup. They may not even get out of their group. Okay, there's a very strong chance the US will not. It's never been easy. Think about the last group they were in, right? Portugal, Germany, and Ghana. Like, if we were in that same group, I'd have lesser chances of getting through that group than we did then.
I want to talk. We don't have much time left, so I want to just kind of add my thoughts in on the young players. So, I mean, I coached college basketball for 13 years, and I coached a lot of really young teams. Totally get it, right? Like, young players are more like literally the same dudes 2 years later, win twice the amount of games, right? Same guys, actually similar talent level, right? They just, learn all the intricacies of playing at whatever level they're at. But at the same time, just to put myself as a coach on blast, there was one year we had pretty good young talent, and we were like, a little under 500 in league. And there was another team in league that was almost the exact same as us, like carbon copy. Best two players were freshmen and sophomores. Supporting cast were mostly freshmen and sophomores. No upperclassmen in rotations. And they made to the finals of the league, right? That guy did a better job coaching than me that year. Like, that's just a fact. Like, he did a much better job preparing his young guys to be ready for the fire, right? And so, yes, absolutely, coaching young is hard, right? But it does matter who's coaching. Like, and is that guy the right coach? There's a lot of opinions on that. I don't think any of us are 100% right or 100% wrong. But what I do think is really important, I think, Caleb, you hit on it, is what are we there has to be a bigger vision. And I've said this for a long time. Like, I would like for the organization to be vision casting for 26 and 30 and thinking about the decisions they make right now, from coaching to development to everything, to obviously be about short-term success and making the World Cup. That's a big benchmark to get to where you want to go. But like, I just hope there's a bigger picture in mind, which I'm not in that organization. There could be.
Well, I think there. I mean, I personally think that there is. I mean, I have said it before. Berhalter shouldn't be the coach for 2026. He's going to be, by
the way.
I don't. I almost 100%.
I'm not saying that I want him to be.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to be.
He will be. You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think he's going to.
It's not going to be Jesse Marsh.
I think he's going to be be as well. I mean, when's he getting fired? Like,
he's going to get fired right after the World Cup. They're going to get the U.S. is going to get knocked out.
But who are they going to hire?
I don't know. They're going to have to figure it out.
It's not going to be Jesse Marsh. Jesse Marsh is taking leads.
I'm telling you right now. Listen, Berhalter's job. I'm hoping this is the Federation, was Berhalter's dumb enough guy, right? And he has enough experience that he was going to take the U.S. job with a bunch of young kids, and his only job was get these guys to the World Cup and get them experience.
As soon as that ends, I think there's a lot of loyalty to Berhalter in that Federation, and I think
of course, I don't even think he's going to want it, dude. He's going to make some good money.
He's going to want it.
Why would he still want it? I don't think. Because, dude, what has he gone through in the last 4 years? Him and his family have been tortured for the last 4 years.
They have not been tortured.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
He doesn't even have a Twitter account, man. Great Berhalter is not tortured.
Dude, he's got a son that plays it. Listen, I'm not okay. Obviously, I'm not saying tortured. I'm exaggerating when I'm saying that. It's not real, but I'm saying I'm going to give the Federation the benefit of the doubt that their job was to put Berhalter to say, hey, get this young team experience to the World Cup, right? 2026, they know that the U.S., their goal is to get to the quarterfinals when they're at home, right?
I think we, yeah, that's the goal. And I think we know that. I don't have a ton of faith that the people running the Federation currently have what you just said, which is very logical. And it's how I think as well. I'm okay with Berhalter as like a caretaker through this cycle. I wouldn't have gone with him. I wouldn't have taken 18 months to hire someone. I wouldn't have done a lot of things they did, right? So like the way all this stuff went makes me think they're way less competent than you're giving them credit for.
But let me ask you this:
like big long-term vision.
Who's part of the Federation? Ernie Stewart, Brian McBride. You think they don't know what they're doing?
I think they're Berhalter guys. I think that's
Berhalter. Think about when they came in, though.
You don't think that they're smart enough to say, hey, we think Berhalter's an amazing coach. You don't think they're smart enough to say, let's have Berhalter, who's a decent man manager, right? To get these kids ready for the World Cup. And then we're going to bring in a new coach, a more experienced coach, maybe with some international experience.
Maybe.
Now that these guys have been playing in Europe.
I get it. Maybe.
I think that's what's going to happen.
I haven't, like, the way that it's been run thus far. No,
they're not thinking that far ahead.
We totally botched Olympic qualifying. This is not like a well-oiled machine of an organization from what I'm seeing. Like, this isn't like, oh my God, they've got this thing humming. This is well run. So no, I don't have confidence. Like, could they think that? Yeah. Are they thinking it? Do I have confidence to thinking it? No. I think Berhalter is a friend to all those.
Let me ask you this: do you think that I think they have
a similar mindset and approach to Berhalter? I think this is old U.S. soccer guys. I like all of them. So, like, do I think there's any visionaries casting some different vision for U.S. soccer and executing it well? I honestly don't. If you're asking my honest opinion.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think Berhalter's, and this is a question for both of you guys, if Berhalter won the Gold Cup, the Nations League, and he beat Mexico 3 times, and if we get 4 points, even 3 points, and he's going to qualify, right, for the World Cup, get us there after 4 years, after Klinsmann and Bruce Arena is considered the best U.S. coach of all time, didn't.
He will get us there.
Doing this without McKennie, doing this without Dest, doing this without Aronson. If after this, and someone asked you, has Berhalter done a good job so far, what would be your response?
Yeah.
Listen,
Berhalter has done a good job up until this point. I'll just mine's quick, Caleb. You can jump in if you got more.
Sure. Yeah, no, listen, I'm not a Berhalter hater. I'm not a Berhalter lover. He does things that make me scratch my head all the time. Makes decisions that don't make sense to me. He puts out lineups that I don't agree with. Some of the tactics I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, he's done the job that he's been asked to do. He's gotten a lot of really good results, winning against Mexico 3 times in a calendar year. It's fantastic. It's a great resume. So yeah, he's done a great job. The reason I'm saying, it sounds like I'm talking negative. Listen, I'm saying he's going to be a coach in 2026. That's because I think that's the whole plan that USSF has put together. Give him the roster now, regardless of what happens. Hopefully we get to the World Cup. They make a decent little run, whatever. They're getting experience. And then in 2026, when the world's watching, because it's going to be here, we're going to have a well-oiled machine because he's had plenty of time to get everything across. That's their plan. The only way that I don't see Berhalter being the coach in 2026 is if Pep Guardiola, who has said that he wants to coach on the international level, decides it's time, let's do it. And then at that point, we'd be idiots not to make that happen. Other than that, it's Berhalter.
Yeah, I'll add one thing here. I think that I just think that I totally agree, Caleb, with what you that I see them thinking way bigger with Berhalter than everybody else does. Berhalter's definitely done a good job. It's hard to say he hasn't done a good job with what he's done, right? The question is the team progressing in a way that you personally, not just you, but everybody who knows soccer, is the team progressing in a way that you feel like it's growing and it's going like this, right? Player performance, everything, style of play is. I don't feel like that. I don't think he's the guy, to your point, Paolo. Like, he shouldn't be the guy that's considered the dude that's going to like take us to heights soccer wise and like allow us to make the jump, right? That's what we're going to need after this World Cup cycle. We're going to need to make the jump. And is he the guy to make the jump for us? No, he should be a caretaker. Man, I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope he is the caretaker for this cycle and they're thinking bigger. But
so
I think
everyone's response is he's done a good job. And I think and that's what I think that a lot of people won't admit is that he's done a good job. And I think everyone gets blasted. Listen,
he's done a good job getting results. For me, he hasn't done a good job.
But listen, you know who
growing our soccer.
Can I just give you an example though? And again, forget there's no apples to apples and coaches to coaches, right? You know who's getting a lot of heat on their lineups over the last couple of weeks was Tuchel, right? Why are you starting Lukaku? Why are you putting Pulisic on the right? Why are you putting even when before they made their Champions League run and won, people were saying like, why are you playing these positions? As soon as he won, people were saying Tuchel was a genius, right? Pochettino, hey, oh my God, PSG is now definitely going to do it fine. They're ups and downs, but they beat City in the Champions League. They're dominating Real Madrid. Now they've lost. Pochettino, Manchester United fans, I never want to see Pochettino again, right? All that matters in football, right, at least in the short term, is results. So as long as he's winning against Mexico and bringing trophies, right, and gets the U.S. to the World Cup. And for me, again, I said this World Cup is not about the U.S. winning. It's not going to happen. Zero chance, below zero. I would put every dollar I have that the U.S. is not going to win, okay? But it's to get these guys good experience. And that's as far as I go with Berhalter. As soon as the World Cup ends, and it's very normal, and I think it has been for U.S. coaches as well, you do your 4-year cycle. You got as far as you did. You get bowed out. An experienced coach comes in. Now he's got this team he can integrate new players. I'm hoping that's the case, and I hope you guys are wrong. But I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that the McBrides and the Ernie Stewarts, who've played in Europe, who obviously know a lot about football and know more about football than we do, right? Right? These guys I'm hoping have a plan to bring in a more experienced coach. I don't know if it's going to be Jesse Marsch. If Jesse Marsch does well at Leeds and he's going to start making big money in Europe, I'm not going to go coach the U.S. national team till later on, in 4, 6, 8 years. I think they're going to bring in an international coach with experience to coach. That's my personal thought going into the 2026?
I think we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the results of the World Cup are actually going to dictate way more than any of us are kind of giving it credit for. I think how we do in the World Cup could totally shift whatever their current plan is, right?
Oh, well, here's a question for you guys. Last one. I promise I'll shut up. If this U.S. team, if Berhalter gets this U.S. team, makes it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup,
yeah, of course.
Would you guys then be happy with him staying in 2026?
No. I mean, listen, like, I don't, maybe.
So really, no results will dictate.
I'd have to see the World Cup. I'd have to see the summer. I'd have to see the World Cup. I'd have to see what it all looks like. You know, like, my goal
What if he gets to the semifinals?
I mean, of course he's going to stay.
Would you be okay with him staying?
Yeah, if we get to the semifinals?
Yeah. Would you be like, I love Berhalter. He should.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. Okay. Like, if you wouldn't eat your words on Berhalter if he got us to the semifinals, you're just the most stubborn and ignorant human of all time. Like, I don't care if this is my problem with people who like hate on England and you know, like the guys getting him to finals and deep runs. Like, shut up, England fans. Like, what are you guys talking about? You guys haven't been to a World Cup final since like 90. And then, like, the guy who gets you to the World Cup final, you're all like, get him out of here. He sucks.
Well, they haven't been in the World Cup final since 1966, to be.
No, I think, semifinal. You're right. Semifinal since semifinal in 90. I'm sorry. I meant semifinal because they made the semifinal last time, not the final. So he got him to a semifinal for the first time since 90, right? Like, so similar deal. Like, if Berhalter gets us to the semifinal, there's no way that he has not grown our soccer if we make the semifinal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you said it best, Pete. There's no way this team currently makes a semifinal. Like, I'd put a lot of money we don't make a semifinal. I wouldn't put everything I own. I'll put a lot of money against us making a semifinal this cycle. So you can't be so stubborn about Berhalter that you're like, even if he's improving, I still am going to hate him just because. If we had a semifinal, we would have to have really clicked. And that would be because he did some really good stuff as a coach. You know, like, yeah, our players are going to have to grow, but like, he would have to really put some stuff together that I have not yet seen him show that he's capable of, right? So sure, we make a semifinal, we make a quarterfinal. Yeah, I mean, that's even going to take some soccer that I don't see in us right now. So, and how do we make the quarterfinal, right? Like, what's our round of 16?
I mean, it's going to be a little bit of luck.
All that stuff matters. That's why there just is no like absolute here for me, right? Like, so are we grinding results and getting to a quarterfinal against bad teams and we got a great group to like get out of? I don't know. It's tough. Hey, let's move. I got one last topic. This is what we're going to end on. I want each of us to give a breakout performance from this window. If you had to take one guy to break out, a guy that has not yet really broken out in a serious way. And we could define that differently, right? Like, you could say Gio technically maybe hasn't broken out. Like, I'll go first. I'll give you guys a little time to think while I
know who you're going to say. We all know who you're going to say.
Of course I did. Man, I already teased it like a great podcast host. I think Luka's going to have an awesome match against Mexico. And I think it's going to be a really bad night for Mr. Calcio guy. I think he's going to have to like turn off his mentions, or he's just going to be like, I never said that. I just said I want to see him do it. Now
I'm not. I'll be the first person who'll be like, I'm glad.
I think the Mexico game right now. I think they're weakened in the midfield a little bit. I think everything's set up for him to have a really nice game. I also just think that game's going to play to his strengths. I think Mexico's going to leave a lot of space for him to drive the ball into, and I think that's what he's really good at. And so I see a good night out of Luka. I see him producing something for us that leads to a goal. And I see that game being the moment that we go, okay, this is the guy who is the backup 8, right? Or the guy who can fill in if a guy's injured. That's mine. Caleb, what do you got as a breakout?
All right. So if you're going breakout, that eliminates like Pulisic having a fantastic window because it's not a breakout, right? So I'm going to go with Paul Arriola. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. I'm going to go Yunus Musa. I think Yunus Musa gets his first goal. I think listen, Yunus Musa is one of my favorite players to watch. I think the kid is incredible. The way he glides with the ball is just like, I watch it and I'm so jealous because I can't do that. It's ridiculous watching him play and how good he is with the ball, and the body control at his age is stupid. I think he has a fantastic window, and I think he gets his first goal for the U.S.
That's my guy. I would love that.
You guys took a couple of mine. Listen, I was gonna say Busio, but I don't really believe that he's gonna get a lot of playing time this window, and that he's just not that one of those players. I think he still has a lot to work on. I'm actually would love this. I don't know how much I believe this, but I would love this. I would love if Jesus Ferreira has an amazing window. I think actually, and I mentioned this before, when Pepe was getting all the stardom, right, and he had this big move to Europe, a lot of responsibility went onto his shoulders. And he's been playing well, and I think it's motivated him. And I think since Pepe's left, he's been playing better at the club level. I think he's impressed people at the international level, and that's why actually he started that game against I think it was El Salvador at home when we came back. So I could see him potentially, like you had mentioned, like both of you guys mentioned, he could get to start at Mexico or at Panama. And because of potentially starting one of those games and scoring, I think coming out of this window, we may even be saying that Jesus Ferreira is our, we always change our minds, is our go-to number 9, because I don't think anyone 2 windows ago would have said Pepe wasn't going to be our guy, right? We were like, it's Pepe, we're done. We finally got it solved. I think it's still up in the air on who's that number 9 is could be, and Jesus could at least take the throne after this window, at least going into, qualifying for now. Right.
I love it. I love it.
I'll give you guys 3 other candidates that I had out there, just in my mind. You guys hit 2 others that are definitely, I think, in that candidate pool. One would be like an Ethan Horvath. Just, if Berhalter goes to him and he kind of he takes that Mexico Gold Cup ending or Nations League ending and kind of turns it into a window thing, right? Where he comes up massive in a tie against Mexico and then has a couple big saves in the clinching game against Panama. So he's a guy I could see it falling right for if he gets the PT. He just might not get in, right? It might be Steffen. The other 2 that I see as potentials are, Pifak is one, right? I think you could see. I think we will see Ferreira or Pifak have a breakout window, just because they both haven't really had that moment yet, really on a big stage. I know Pifak had the Honduras game, but that moment where it's like, wow, that's going to be a big moment in U.S. history, right? With a grain of salt, right? But current modern U.S. history, it's a big moment for us. Big goal, came through with a couple big moments. So Pifak's one, and then my last one is, it might sound a little weird, is Gio Reyna, who really, and when I say breakout, I mean like a dominant window, right? Like he comes in and has like a massive off the bench game where you're like, oh my, that's the best player in CONCACAF, right? Or then comes in against Panama and starts and totally controls the game, has a goal and assists, multiple other chances created. I could see Gio just having this dominant window where you're like, okay, the kid's here now, So those are my other ones. I'm really excited to see who does it, because I think we will be talking after this window about a couple guys that broke out, and I can't wait to see who it is. I saw somebody say they want it to be Morris, Areola, and Roldan, which I thought was really, really funny.
Matt Doyle, for sure.
Listen, hey,
Twitter would blow up.
If that gets us the result and we get qualified, yes, I will put them on. I'll put them on my wall.
If Berhalter throws a lineup out there that I don't like, listen, if those guys get it done, I'll be the first to go, let's go.
Couldn't care less.
Let's go. Get off finally. Hey, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We talked for over an hour and a half. I love it. This podcast is more for us than anyone. I don't even know who listens to this thing. But Caleb, appreciate you having you on.
Therapy session.
Hey, so we can anybody who's listening can follow you at USMNT Corner, correct? Anywhere else?
J Caleb Cook 1. It's personal. It's my personal. It's on my bio for USMNT Corner.
Sweet. Awesome. Thanks, brother. Cal, like always, it's been good. 10 p.m. tomorrow, gentlemen, or maybe tonight if you're listening tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. Let's go get our first W ever.
Fingers crossed, guys. I'll see you guys on the Twitter sphere.
Historic.
Let's go get it. All right. Later, guys. Been good.